Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, Is there such thing as mind over matter? It's based on a question somebody asked me, and the question says, Hi Nick, are anxiety and fear a consequence of a strong identification with the body? Is it the mind that fixes its attention on the body, somatizing each thought into various uncomfortable sensations that then occur in the body, such as palpitations, insomnia, a feeling of losing balance, etc.? Well, I'm going to share what I answer in writing, and then we may elaborate a bit. I said, anxiety, fear, or whatever it may be is not a consequence of a strong identification with the body. They are simply experiences that take place within the world of appearances associated with a body. Let's remove the word mind and instead use the word source. The source that supposedly projects all of this is what endows all illusions with their experiences and behaviors. The body, being a projection of that same source, does not experience what a human mind endows it with. This is where the idea of mind over matter comes from. It is simply what happens, or rather, what apparently happens. When you're asleep and you start dreaming, everything that happens in the dream is not a consequence of anything else happening in the dream. Not even with an identification with the body, it is simply a consequence of the mind dreaming it all. That's why when there is no identification with the content of the mind, what exists is simply what is. And what is can experience all kinds of movements, but none of that affects the underlying reality, which is what the message is constantly pointing to. That underlying reality is what you are, what you've always been, and what you'll always be, and that cannot be spoken about. Therefore, what we're doing here is not letting ourselves be distracted by the behavior or sensations that arise. We're simply becoming aware that we are the underlying reality in which all the different movement, whether sensations or thoughts, appear to take place. And within the world of appearances, just as sensations and experiences arise, so too the actions to address whatever needs to be addressed without us having to do anything about it, since we are not the doers. That is to say, if the mind dreams a dream in which the character in the dream has a headache, the mind also dreams that character in the dream taking an aspirin. But the character in the dream is not doing anything of personal will. It is simply what happens in the projection. So you see how everything boils down to simplicity. Whatever seems to be happening in the world of appearances is simply a consequence of that which supposedly is projecting all of this. It's not that I can choose what I want or not want, or even though it may appear to be that way, in the end, it's life unfolding as it will. The ego mind, put it this way, which is the thought of separation, is terrified of this because it believes that it needs to control. Because of course, believing this something separate, there's always a threat. But when you know what you are, you relax. And these videos are pointing to that, to just the recognition that you are. Life unfolds as it will, and there's nothing you have to do. That's why my favorite, quote from the Bible is, look at the birds in the sky. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father takes care of them. Are not you more important than they are? Well, you know what? I see this over and over again. When there's no identification with the content of the mind, there's a relaxation. And then life unfolds as it will. And you see how things manifest, and then you see how they unmanifest, and you see how all sorts of experiences takes place, but now you're conscious of the fact that you are, which again is like when you're sleeping and you're dreaming, what happens in the dream, although it is a consequence of your own projection, just because you have forgotten that you are the one projecting it anyway, it's not about changing the dream to make a better or a different dream. It's about becoming conscious that you are the dreamer of the dream. And in that case, let the things be as they want to be if they want to, or as pleasurable, it doesn't matter. They cannot distract you from the fact that you are the dreamer of the dream. We are here pointing to the fact that you are the dreamer of the dream. Pointing to the recognition that as you know that you simply are, you experience what is referred to as the peace that surpasses all understanding. In other words, these videos are not about trying to get you to a particular experience or anything like that. No, it's about helping you experience the peace that surpasses all understanding at all times, no matter what may be taking place in the world of appearances, because you're no longer distracted. So once again, if you don't believe the content of the mind, I know these are paradoxical, you're not the one choosing that either, but again, within the context of this experience, it appears as if there's a suggestion, and may appear as if you may be able to take that suggestion and put it into practice. So anyhow, right now, if you don't believe the content of the mind, what remains? See, what remains is what is. And this is where all this is pointing to. And all these questions, they just fall by the wayside, because in reality, what's the point? If anxiety shows up, well, it's a movement, it's a feeling, it's a sensation, and it's just what happens. And if you let it be, then you see how it continues its journey. Palpitation shows up, well, that's just what shows up, but I am, you see. And once again, if something needs to be done to take care of the palpitations, it's not you who choose to make that choice. It's just what naturally happens through you. You find yourself calling for help, or you may find yourself laying down, or whatever. But that is a happening. You see? And that's how you can relax in what is. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can be extended.